I feel like now is the perfect time to put this video out there because people are just seeing the rise. They're seeing the last 12 to 24 months of the journey, not what's gone off before then. So they've seen the trips to Dubai, they've seen the trips to Miami. And I just want to give people a little bit more of my story, how I got here, why I got here, and the work that I've put in. So I think now is a perfect time to really rewind the years and start and kick off from where it all began, really. So I think it's only fair we start from being around 8 years old. So this was a key memory that will probably stick with me for the rest of my life when I got scouted by Rotherham Academy. And that was a pivotal part of my life at that point and remained a pivotal part from being right up until 16 years old. So I played for Rotherham throughout my final years at primary school, all the way through to the end of secondary school as good as. And I think that played such a big role in my life because academically I wasn't the best at school. I was never in the top sets. I never got the best grades. And I think a big part of that was because of how much I prioritised football, how much I truly believed that this was going to be it for me. But it wasn't. So when that came to an end, it was a big factor for me. It was a big factor for my dad, who travelled far and wide to support me, to take me to the games. So it was almost like this passion, this love for football. It was still there, but just not at the level that I wanted it to be. And anything that I do in life is almost like I've got to be the best. It's not a case of making numbers up or just doing something to half-heartedly do it. I like to do things properly. And after that, I still played competitive football, but my heart was never truly fully back into it because I knew I wasn't going to make anything out of it. I enjoyed it, but I knew the journey of potentially being a professional footballer at whatever level that would have been was over. So it was almost like, right, okay, let's reset, let's refocus here. I finished school at 16. I got all right grades. I passed all what you needed to pass, English, maths and science. Not much more than that, other than PE, I think. And I went to college. So I went to college with not really an idea of what I wanted to study or what I wanted to do, but I picked business and I picked physical education and English because I just thought, well, I'm good at sport. I need a good business mindset in life to potentially get anywhere. And I wanted to come across to people well-spoken. So that was my thought process, and that was probably the biggest thought process that I'd ever gone into education in my life. So I left school, went to college, picked those 3 subjects, and also did goal. So anybody who went to Thomas Rotherham College as I did would know this is almost like a feeder centre, as you like to call it, for people who are still trying to cling on to that dream of becoming a professional footballer. We booked a trip to America to go and play, and 2 weeks before I snapped my cruciate ligament. So I never went on that trip, and that were a little bit almost like the dream was fully done then. Like I still had that little bit of a passion for football, that little bit of a desire that, yeah, I know I'm probably not going to get there, but let's have one last hit at it. And then when the cruciate ligament got snapped, I was out for 6 to 8 months, and I came back and I just remember playing football and thinking, I'm not the same player. I'm not as good, not technically, I'm not as passionate. And it was 18, and after 18, I never played a competitive football game again. And I think that broke my dad's heart, which was hard because I knew how much playing football meant to him. And mate, I'm getting emotional talking about this.
Whatever Ben's done in life is good 100%. He never wants to be second best. Never. So if he's second best in anything or third best, it's not good enough for him. It all started when he used to be a really fast runner at school, best in school, best probably in South Yorkshire at his time. He had all best gear, spikes, but then he didn't grow much. Everybody grew, and they were catching him over 100 metres, so he didn't like that. Football, it was probably from 7-year-old to 14-year-old really, really outstanding. All the scouts said he'd make a player and everything, and again, it was like lightning, but the strength wasn't there. Got knocked off ball and he got released from Rotherham at about 14 years old. That really took a dint in him, knocked his confidence back because all he wanted to do was play football. He had a bit of a lull for a few seasons and then he got his confidence back and went playing for Answorth Football Club, which is a very good team, was outstanding in that team till he tore his ligaments. And that was near enough him done at 18-year-old. Finished. He did try and come back, but he was never the same.
Growing up, Ben always wanted to be a famous footballer, and we used to go for a walk and we'd go to Bray. So we went along Doncaster Road, and there was a big house there, and it were all renovated. I used to say, one day, Mum, I'm going to buy a house like that when I'm a famous footballer, and we can all live together, and my nan can live with us because he were very close to his nanny Mullins. What happened was he were going to America to get a scholarship, and just before that he was playing football and he had an accident, and it was his cruciate ligament. He then got very depressed because he then couldn't go to America, and we'd raised some money. We'd got people sponsoring him and raised some money, so he got very depressed. So it were about geeing him back up. Nothing I could say would gene him back up, and then one day he said, I've just got to get my head around this, Mum, I've got to do something else because I can't do that now. This will always be a weak spot.
And I think it broke my dad's heart because he still had belief that I could get something out of it. He still thought that after the injury I was good enough to potentially get paid semi-pro. So why turn my back on it fully? And I think it was just down to knowing that I was never really going to get that return of that investment, what I'd put in time, money. Well, it wasn't my money, but parents' money, travelling up and down the country. So at 18, I just fully turned my back on football, and like I said, never played a competitive football game again. And won't even sometimes play five-a-side with the lads because there's such an emotion and an attachment to that football that it ended on such a bleak turn that I sometimes don't even watch it. Then this is where it really began. So I could talk about athletics and being a 100-metre sprinter and things like that, but I'll not dive into detail of that because I don't think it's relevant. I was a great sprinter, I ran 100 metres, but in terms of pursuing that, I just enjoyed running and didn't ever really kind of give it my full focus because football was prioritised. My second year at college is where it all began. So I think I was 18, 19, and I got a really firm PE teacher. And I think I weighed at around 62 kilo at that age. So I was a really small build. I was around 5'5", 5'6". A late bloomer, I'd say. I looked about 15 when I was 18, 19, probably younger. And the PE teacher at the time used to use me as an example and stand me up in front of the class and say, we've got an example of a skeleton here. And I was a massive introvert, massive introvert, and hated the attention being on me, hated people looking and focusing on me, hated getting asked questions in class. I was just the least confident person that you could possibly imagine. And the thought of going into a gym absolutely horrified me. Like, my mates had all hit puberty way before me. They was all bigger, they was all boisterous, and they was all moving big weights around. And I remember starting my part-time job, and the lads that I was working with was big lads at the time, and this one memory sticks, and it was putting the glasses into a cleaning tray where you put them to be cleaned and dried. And I remember the lads looking at me and saying, are you going to carry that in? And I carried it in, and it was such a struggle. And just that the embarrassment of that, combined with the comments from the PE teacher, was almost like, right, I'm not embarrassed of who I am or what I represent, but I did want to make a change. So I took myself to the gym with the help of a good friend who I'm still very good friends with today. And started training. And I remember that first gym session, I remember exactly where it was at. It was at Hellaby Old Gym in Maltby. And when I was in the gym, I was conscious the first session all the time of people looking at me. Am I doing things wrong? Am I doing things right? But I stayed consistent. I went for 2 to 3 months, and within that time frame, I remember it was coming up to my first ever lads holiday to Ayia Napa, and I'd changed dramatically without really dieting, just making sure that I got my protein intake in through help of my friends and their knowledge, and just by staying consistent, training 5-6 times a week. And I'd grown a nice little frame, put a little bit of muscle on, and I remember going to Ayia Napa with the lads, and I kept it private that I was going to the gym to my close friends, and I took my top off, and they were all a little bit shocked. And that's when it hit home that what I was doing here was working, and people were noticing it. And I got nice comments about my physique and my frame for the first time. And I remember watching the video back, pushing Brad in the pool at the time, and I was on the side of the video, and I looked and thought, is that me? And that was the first time I looked back at my physique and was almost like, what I'm doing here is actually working, and I'm going to stick this out. And then I remember getting back home, and that's when the studying began. That's when the focus on education began at 19 years old. And I was really kind of heading books, understanding nutrition, the roles nutrition played, understanding anatomy and physiology, researching bodybuilding, watching it on YouTube. And 12 months passed, and we went back to another lads holiday to Magaluf, and I remember the photo, and I put it on Instagram, and the response was crazy. Everybody was almost like, is that Ben? And that's when it hit home again. I was like, right, okay, there's something here that I can do with this. And my education had come up. I'd built a little bit of a reputation that I had a good physique and people respected it. And I was like, right, this is something I'm not only passionate about, I enjoy. So it continued year by year, it passed, and I was getting bigger and bigger. I was getting more recognition, nicer comments, more compliments. And along with that, I was just studying relentlessly. So endless nutrition books, level 2, level 3, performance nutrition. And that's when it really started to turn into almost like, right, this is a true passion of mine that I absolutely love. But it's important to mention at this point, I was at university. So I was studying business management, and I remember with business, I was passionate about it. Because like I said, I actually got an A at college, so I carried it through to university. I went to university in Lincoln, and I never really lived the full uni life. I lived at uni for 2 years. I did go out, enjoy myself, but Lincoln's a small city, so there wasn't too many distractions. I focused on getting my degree. I focused on maintaining my fitness career, or hobby at the time. I got myself a coach throughout university despite not being able to afford it. I worked and travelled home to make sure I had an income to not only learn from that coach but also develop my physique month after month, year after year. And then I remember graduating from university, so I got a second-class degree in business management, and that's when I moved into my corporate background. At this point, I think it's important to update where I was at on social media and what I was doing. So I probably had around 3,000 or 4,000 followers at this point, just posting topless photos, not really adding much value. The knowledge and education side of things was coming to a higher level now. I was helping a couple of friends get in shape, particularly my uni mates, and a couple of friends back home. And I remember being at work, and I got my dream graduate job, and I thought, right, this is it. The banking industry is mine. I was making a decent reputation for myself, and then 12 months after my graduate scheme finished, I became a project manager at a respected bank. I was presenting in front of directors and leading multi-million-pound projects, and I wasn't getting paid that well for it. And I wasn't motivated by money, but at this point, my fitness career was growing a little bit because my education alongside that full-time career was improving, because I was going home, I was training, I was studying. And I remember one day in particular, I got booked for a photo shoot with Fit Media Channel. And I think if you look at that video now on YouTube, it's touching 1 million views. And I booked a day off work, and I went and shot at Bailey Images Studio. And at this point, I wasn't really anybody in the bodybuilding world. I was just coming into my competitive career. And I remember doing that, booking a day off work, having that photo shoot and driving home and thinking to myself, I need to make this into a full-time career. And it wasn't necessarily the photo shoot, it was more the passion for coaching, the passion for fitness, spending time with like-minded people, listening to people like Bailey, Jeff, who ran highly successful businesses, and thinking, right, these guys work for themselves, they're their own boss, they're making their own money because they followed the passion and what they're passionate about. And that was it, the journey began. So that's when I entered the competitive bodybuilding field, and I started competing and making a name for myself in the fitness industry, and really kind of shooting with the best photographers. So I shot with Justin Taylor, Giles Crofter, and then I competed at my first bodybuilding competition, which was Pure Elite at the time. And I remember being one of the youngest, but the comments I got backstage was almost like I'd won before I even stepped on stage. And I remember entering the under 75 category, winning that. And then I didn't enter the over 75 on the day because I wasn't over 75 kilo. But the judge said, I think you should enter the over 75 because I think you'd be highly competitive in it. So I did it and I finished second in that. And that was like, I came away from that and thinking, actually, I could do really, really well in bodybuilding from a competitive standpoint. And all along this journey and this competitive career, I was still studying, I was still working with a couple of friends for free, helping them on their fitness journey and getting them in shape. And then I went to PCA the following year, won that. I went to Two Bros, and this is where I made the transition from muscle model to men's physique. And I went to Two Bros where I had no expectations whatsoever. And I finished third with a real fire after that show to come back and do better. So I only had a 4-month off season. I came back and I finished second. But this was a huge changing point for me, and like a huge turning point for me in the bodybuilding career, when I didn't realise how unhealthy it is. And I am going to say that, how unhealthy bodybuilding and competitive bodybuilding can get. So what I mean about bodybuilding being unhealthy is, and this is just my opinion, like I think bodybuilding's great, I love it, it is my passion, but in terms of competitive bodybuilding and what it did to me, I remember my first ever photo shoot with Alex, and he took 3 photos of me, and it was lockdown at the time, and I remember looking back at those photos, and it's going to sound ridiculous to a lot of people out there, but I was absolutely mortified by what I saw back in that camera. I didn't realise the amount of muscle mass I had. I clearly had body dysmorphia, and along with that I probably had quite a severe eating disorder, to a point where I was so scared to eat off plan. And if I did eat off plan, it was resulting in me spending hours on the bike the next morning. I was doing cardio. And it was just now gone to a point where I was getting all these positive comments from all my peers and friends, and all this healthy balance that I had in terms of lifestyle and enjoying what I did, to all of a sudden looking back in the camera, not liking what I saw, getting comments from people saying you're too big, and also not feeling healthy in terms of the whole mental side of things and this eating disorder side of things. So that was a huge part of why I turned my back on bodybuilding. I needed to get my mental health back into a good spot. I needed to like what I saw in the mirror again. And I needed to make sure that I had a very healthy balance with food and life in general, because that's what made me happy. So I stopped pursuing competitive bodybuilding because it didn't make me happy. That's the bottom line. What I was doing to my body, what I was doing to my mind, just didn't align with what I wanted to do for the brand of Bray Coaching and what I wanted to do for myself. So the next chapter really began. I was known for being a men's physique athlete. I was known for competing and doing really well at shows. I wasn't really known for my coaching. At this point, I probably had 20 clients who was paying me £75 a month. And it was just a side hustle. And then I remember sitting down and having the conversation with Ben Hawksworth and saying, right, how do I become one of the best coaches in the UK? And I had the knowledge. Alongside that knowledge, I had the experience as well. I'd walked the walk, I'd been heavy in an off season. I'd been peeled. I understood what it took to get peeled. I understood what it took to add muscle. After every check-in I had with my coach at the time, I made notes and watched them back 3 or 4 times. I made notes of, I studied, I explored further, I researched. And then that's when I made the business move to really make a dent in the fitness industry. And I remember having the conversation with Josh Cardwell, who is my best friend, and saying, give me 12 to 24 months and I'll be one of the best coaches in the UK. I'll be one of the most recognised fitness influencers in the UK.
I think the thing is with Ben as well is he's very successful now, and he's on his way to being even more successful, but the core value with him and what makes him such a valuable friend is the fact that he's always got time for the people who are there from day one and the people around him. For example, what he's just done with his mum and bringing me here, just getting me involved in this, it's been amazing. And that's how he is with people. He sticks to them core values no matter what he's involved with, no matter what people he surrounds himself with. He'll always be the same sort of person. I don't look at him any different, and he ain't any different from the day I met him. He's just a more confident lad now. He is an amazing kid, and from what he's grown from, he's literally, it's meteoric, but he needs to understand that this is just the start for him as well. And that's where I come in. You know, we often sit and laugh and talk about, you know, what happens when you get to this point. What does happen really? Nothing stops. And that's why he'll be successful. Everything he's done, he's coaching. He said to me at the start of coaching, he weren't too sure about it. He did a little bit with me, got me whipped up into better shape, and saw the effect that had on me. And then we had a serious conversation about that. And why don't you go for it? And that's always the point which we make. Why don't you go for these things? And I feel like he is, and now you're seeing this with YouTube. And I've no doubt that he'll have a meteoric rise in this as well. The ceiling, honestly, it can't go high enough for him. But it's just nice to see. It's nice to sit on sidelines now and look at his progress and where he's going. And I just want him to keep that momentum, and I know he will. He's relentless, he works as hard as he does, but that never stops him. If I had an issue tomorrow, and this speaks volumes about his character, no matter how busy he is, if I said, Ben, I need you for something, it might take him a little bit longer to text back these days, but I know he'd be there in 5 minutes. I know he would be, and that's why everyone loves him. I just want to say a big thank you for having me on this trip. Like I said, it does mean a lot. It's nice to be part of it. It's nice to see what goes on behind the scenes. I didn't realise how much work it actually were, but yeah, just keep doing what you're doing, bro. And honestly, making waves in this industry.
I'm not quite at the point where I want to be yet, but I think I'm making a decent dent in getting there. And this is really when the coaching came to fruition. So it began then to really build a name for myself in the coaching industry, as well as almost like the fitness influencer industry. So there was a lot of people I looked up to. So from a coaching standpoint, I looked at coaches who was walking the walk, who was getting the best results, who were inspiring me from putting stories on from the minute they woke up to the minute they went to sleep, who was just hustling day in, day out. I watched what they did and thought, right, I need to do more than them. I looked at the fitness influencers and the content they was creating, and I thought, right, I've not got the funds to do that yet, but I'll put myself in a position so I can do that. So I was still studying really hard, nutrition in particular, because I feel like my knowledge from a programming and bodybuilding perspective at this point was at a really high standard. And I was still running a full-time job that was quite demanding. So I remember hitting 25 clients and having a conversation with mum and dad and saying, these are the financials. This is where my full-time job is. This is where my coaching career's at. This is a side hustle. This is a full-time career. Fitness is where my passion is. This is where the security is. But I didn't want that security. I was driving up and down the country to deliver meetings to executives. I wasn't getting paid great money. And then I remember I had the business idea to really just sit on results. So a key part to my success from a coaching standpoint was my brother. Because I said to Josh, my brother, let me coach you for free. And if you stick to what I say for the next 10 to 12 weeks, I will get you in the best shape you've ever been in. And he did exactly that. So I had one result there with Josh. And I was like, right, okay, that's one result. I then had another 4 or 5 clients who I had the same conversation with, coached them for next to nothing, and I got those results. I then repeated that process with another 4 or 5 clients and got those results. So I was sat on 10 results, I remember this at the time, and they had the business strategy to drop these results once every 2 to 3 days, along with a photo and an update on my journey. And that was where it began. The client transformations, the Bray journey combined onto Instagram. And I remember at the time I was probably sat on around 9,000 followers, and this was primarily just from me working with good photographers, doing a couple of photo shoots, doing a good few competitions and placing well, and just understanding the algorithm a little bit on Instagram and just gaining traction that way. But I wasn't growing anymore. I'd plateaued from a social media perspective and growth. So this little business strategy that I had took my client roster from 25 to 50. And I remember this. Now at this point, coaching was probably just outweighing my corporate career. And I had the same conversation with mum and dad 3-4 months later. And they said, look, we know you're happy with doing your fitness, you're not as happy in your job, and you're making a decent living now, you're earning good money from doing the both, just keep doing it. But the demand was growing more and more for coaching. So I overworked myself. I remember setting alarms at 4:30 in the morning, doing 10 check-ins a morning, getting a shower, going to work for a full 9-5, finishing work at 5:30, going to the gym 6 while 7:30, 8 o'clock, tea, repeat the process. And I did that for 6-7 months. At this point now, I was actually getting a name for myself as an online coach and getting some respect and getting comments from other good online coaches, and I think actually motivating other people. But this job was still holding me back, but it was security. I had holiday pay. I was earning all right money at this time. I'd had a pay rise, and I was getting more and more workload to a point where it was pick or choose. So I remember COVID hit, and I said to my mum, I'm going to quit my 9-5. And mum said, you know, I wasn't furloughed. I was still working from home. And I said, I'm going to take the risk. This is the first time I've ever gone against my mum and my dad's word. And I took that decision and quit my 9-5. Gave 30 days notice. My employer ran me into the ground, made me work relentlessly because I had that much responsibility. I was a single point of failure at that job, that the handover was huge. Now at this point, between that 30 days notice, I'd made that salary back, that monthly salary from my corporate career, I'd made back in taking clients on. And I made that promise myself when I handed this notice in. It wasn't about money for me, it was passion. But the business strategy that I'd put in place allowed me to grow my client roster. So that's what I did, and I remember hitting that number and thinking, right, that's my security now. I've not got holiday days. I know for the next 12 months I'm probably gonna have to work day in, day out to continue this growth. And that's exactly what I did. So that was the birth of Bray coaching, and that was the kind of history that's gone back into it, and that's where I came from. I'm a firm believer that whatever you put in as input, you get back as output. If I could probably tell you how many days off I've had over the last 24 months, let alone 12, I could probably count it on one hand. I used to always think, how are these successful people successful? How do they get to where they are? And the true answer to that, and I firmly believe this is hard work, I'm often told by people around me and close to me, you work too much, you switch off, you never switch off, and you're always thinking, you're always doing something. And the reason for that is because not only am I passionate about what I do and love what I do, it doesn't feel like work. I'm not satisfied yet. I'm still nowhere near where I want to be. So that requires the same level of work ethic that I've shown for the last 5, 6, 7 years to be putting across the next 5, 6, 7 years, maybe 10 years.
It's great to see that he's been very successful because he's worked away in background for years, and it's took him time to build up what he's got, and he's worked long and he's worked hard. And that's the things that people don't see. When all his mates were going out, he weren't going out. He were getting ribbed a lot about it, but he wanted to achieve something. So he just let it go over his head. He loves his mates, he loves being with them, but he'd go and have a drink, but he'd go and drink pop, and that is really hard. And then he would go out sometimes and you know, let his hair down. He'd come home early, he'd get ribbed by his friends, but he rose above it, and he just thought, I need to do this to succeed what I'm doing. And we used to say to him, you'll get a break one day, surely. One day somebody's going to see what you're doing and you're going to get some kind of break, you're going to get sponsorships. And then gradually companies started contacting him, and he was talking to them, and he's got some sponsorships and he's built on them as well. And then I've just watched him grow and grow, and I've said, when are you going to stop? And there's no stop. I'm like, you're all right now, you can live, you know. No, it's about success, it's about achieving, he's always moving on to bigger things, and it's like his success, he shares it with everybody. He tries to help everybody, his friends and his close friends, family, and it's nice to see, because he's my son, he's going to be into. He's a good lad, he's got a good heart, and people sometimes in that industry, all they see is the body image, the personality, but they don't realise what the graft that's gone and the confidence that he's had to gain to be able to do that.
Coming back to Bray coaching and the growth over the last 12 months, it started with me, where I was working with around 75 clients. I don't think client numbers are important, so we're not going to talk about those, no financials. We're going to talk about quality of service and passion for helping other people. And that's what it's down to. I remember coaching, growing and thinking, I should probably cap, but I just wanted to help more and more people. So that's what I've done over the last 12 months. I made it a promise to myself that anybody who inquired, I would try and help. I would try and change their life, and I think there'll be a lot of people watching this who could relate to this and probably say, yeah, Ben has had a massive impact on my life, not just from a visual aspect, a physical, but hopefully a mental as well. And I think I came to a sticking point probably 6 months ago where I was at capacity and I couldn't help anyone else, and that for me was like something quite hard to deal with. I was like, how do I break over this barrier? How do I get to that next spot? And that's where Sergio came in, and that took a lot of research, picking the right person for the brand, make sure his knowledge was where I wanted it to be, his work ethic was similar to mine, and his passion for fitness and helping others was his key ethos. So we focused on growing him now and then getting Sergio to a point where he can help others produce exceptional results. Once I achieved the goal of being one of the most recognised online coaches in the UK, it was almost like, right, okay, let's sustain the work ethic that I've done to achieve that, but let's now times it by 10 and go global. So that's when I met Alex, essentially, who's been a big part of the journey in terms of creating the content and the level of content that I've been able to provide for the last 6 months. I think when I met Alex, I was probably on around 20,000 followers, and I thought to really grow my brand and grow Bray coaching, I've got to invest back into content. There's only so much works on social media. You can't just continually post the same stuff and just rinse and repeat it if you want to grow your socials. So it required a level of investment that I've never put in terms of cash flow. I really needed to make sure that I was producing content that nobody else was producing, and that's what I thought. I thought, nobody's providing content that is 1, educational, 2, entertaining, and 3, consistently adding value, but also getting to know the person behind the work and the brand. And this is a big part of why I'm doing what I'm doing today on this video, because I want everybody to get to know me. I want everybody to understand what it's taken to get to this level. I feel like what I did in Dubai, some people may look at me and think, this guy's just flash, he's going to Miami, he's going to Dubai, he's documenting it all, he's staying in these apartments, he's hiring these cars, and it's not about that. My degree was in business marketing. The G-Wagon stunt was a marketing stunt. We drove that around. It was a little goal of mine to go to Dubai and hire a nice car, and it was a little bit of a marketing stunt when we posted it to get people talking, and that's exactly what it did. It worked a treat, engagement was through the roof, And that's when it really started. The journey of this fitness influencer, as I like to start, really did then take off. I think we've scaled in terms of followers from the start of 2021 to where we're at now on this video, probably 30, touching 40,000 followers. Over the last 3 months in particular, we've gained 20,000 followers. And that's not luck, that's business strategy in terms of investing into content and what I set myself as a goal and achieving that goal. So I want to thank Alex for the input that he's had in terms of creating unbelievable content. And I just wanted to give clarity in terms of why I'm doing what I'm doing from a content perspective, to not only grow my social media, grow my brand, get my journey across and take everybody along that journey with me. I know sometimes on social media it may come across as, oh, he's in Dubai, he's in Miami, he's living this good life, but if you watch the YouTubes, if you're close to me, you'll know while I'm out here I'm working relentlessly, whether that be online coaching, growing the brand, or growing Bray. And I get a lot of comments now through my direct messages on Instagram. I get comments passed back from friends saying that I'm lucky. I've had everything given in life, and I feel like this is why, and one of the main reasons I'm also doing this video is to kind of give you guys an idea of, you are just really seeing the tip of the iceberg. And believe me, it's not the tip of the iceberg in terms of where I'm gonna get, because it's gonna go way above this. But it's almost like you've not seen the Bray of 18, 19. I'm 27 now. That's almost 10 years in the industry, studying, learning, being competitive, trying to get to the top. You don't get here overnight. You don't get here in 3 months, 6 months, 12 months, 24 months. It takes a lot longer than that. And what I'm doing now is essentially the end product of the work and the output of the work that I've input for the last 8, 9 years. So when I hear comments saying he's lucky, he's had everything given on a plate, I've been brought up in Rotherham by a working class family. My dad was a steel worker. My mum was a care coordinator. And I never went without in life, but I was always brought up to work. So the minute I was 16, 17, I had a part-time job. I was earning money. And I think that played a huge role in terms of my own personal background and the way I was brought up to where I've got today. I wasn't gifted or given anything on a plate from my mum and dad, and I've never been gifted or given anything on a plate by anyone else. So I just wanted to make sure people understood that where I've got today, I've had a very small circle. I've played big roles and have a big impact to assist me to where I've got today, but it has been down to hard work, resilience, passion, and just a relentless pursuit of progress.
People who look at Ben now might think he's got a lavish lifestyle, trips to Dubai, Miami, Ibiza coming up, Marbella coming up. But it's been a long time for him to do this. He's worked behind a bar for £5 an hour. He's then got his degree, which he's lived off not a lot of money. So now I've seen it all. He thoroughly deserves what he's got today, with all his hard work and his determination. So I'm very, very proud of him.
Things don't always go to plan. You've got to expect some knockbacks in life, and there's been times over the years where I've been sat there working long hours, staring at my computer screen thinking, when is this going to pay off? When am I going to get the reward for the work? And I feel like over the last 12 months, I'm starting to see a little bit of that reward. And it really has taken this amount of time to get to where I am. And I just want to give people not only inspiration, but hope that if you are just beginning your journey at perfecting your craft, whether that be 3 months, 6 months, 12 months, 18 months, 24 months, just keep your head down, keep hustling, keep doing what you're doing, because if you are consistent, if you turn up every single day and you put the work in and you've got the right circle around you to support you, the results will come. And I just want to make sure that I thank some of the people who have helped me along the journey, who have supported me, whether that be a like on Instagram, whether that be a comment, whether that be a direct message, whether that be you're in my direct circle, a member of my family, a loved one. I just want to make sure that everyone's received a thank you from me to you, because without that support, I wouldn't be in the position that I am today. So people watching this might think Ben's had a really, really good 12 months. He's had a really, really good 24 months. But without sounding cliche, this is really just a start for me, and the brand and where I want to take things. I've got huge sponsors behind me now, both from a clothing standpoint and a supplement standpoint. I aim to continue to grow their brand as well as my personal profile and my brand, and really get to the top. I have conversations with the people close to me that absolutely terrify me in terms of how big my goals are. But I'm a firm believer that if they don't terrify you and you don't believe in yourself, you probably won't get to that end result. But I think the key take home and what I want you all to take away from this video is that if you don't believe in yourself, no one else will. You've got to really, really believe in yourself. And it's took me years to actually look back at myself in that mirror and think, yeah, I believe in you. But now I do, and I believe in myself probably more than anyone else around me. And I will make sure whatever goals I set over the next 12, 24 months, my work ethic aligns with that, my passion aligns, my input versus output aligns, and I will do everything in my power to get to where I want to get to.